On the next set of before the match rules, we're on page 16 in the robot game rules. These are the rules that apply to the setup, getting ready to start the match. And there's only 4 rules here. In general, we'll be playing on official tables. One thing to note about these official tables, and it's not so much about the tables themselves, but about the playing conditions. There can be variability, right? A few millimeters one way or the other on the models, on the table layout, on the lighting conditions. When you read through the rule book, they will talk about this. Just be prepared for variances because a lot of this is not going to be exact. So you need to be able to build your robot with some robustness, right? So your equipment, remember, equipment is anything you bring to the table that's not the notebook paper. So your robot, its attachments, all that has to fit into the 2 launch areas. Now remember, the launch areas are the 2 quarter circles. And every piece of equipment you bring, all of it has to fit in there. So before each match, they'll do an inspection and they will make sure it can all fit in there. But there's a way to get some bonus points here. If you can fit it into just one launch area and under a height of 12 inches, you get the bonus points. So there's a 20-point bonus for being able to fit all your equipment in one launch area under 12 inches. Now, if you're not going for the bonus, it has to fit in both launch areas and you have to fit under the height of 12 inches. So either way, there's that 12-inch requirement. And you can see if you read the rule too quickly, you might miss it. So no matter how much equipment you bring, you've got 2 launch areas of a 12-inch height. But if you can do it in just one, you get bonus points. And they're going to inspect that before every match. So when you're getting ready and you think you have your robot ready for competition, before you actually go to the competition, run a Rule 8 check. Make sure you can fit in both areas under 12 inches or in one area under 12 inches. And remember, this is talking about the launch area, not home. So it's only the 2 quarter circles. Keep that in mind. So that's Rule 8. Moving on to Rule 9. You do not get additional storage space. No additional storage space. Everything must stay either on the table or in the hands of the technicians. So you can't store anything anywhere other than you can store it in the left home area, which is over here. You can store it in the right home area, which is over here. Or let's see, so there's home there and there's home there. So you can store it in these 2 areas, not necessarily the launch areas, but actually the launch area is part of home, remember? So you could store it in the launch area. You just want to be careful about that when we get to the launch rules. So you can store it anywhere in the lawn, in the home areas, or in the hands of the technicians. They can be holding it. Otherwise, it has to not go to the match. Looking over the rest of the rules, the areas to the left and right of the mat can be used to store equipment. Equipment stored on the table may extend past the left and right walls only. So if you have a piece of equipment and it needs to overhang on the table like this, and you're just holding it there, that's okay. If you have it like this, that's not okay because that's not the left or the right wall. You have to have it hanging over the left or the right wall if it needs to hang over. So that's allowed. All right, Rule 10. After the team has passed inspection, you get a couple minutes to set up. They'll start by distributing their equipment. So you distribute your equipment, all the stuff you bring to the table, between the 2 home areas. Sometimes mission models will go between the 2 home areas as well. I don't think any of the mission models start in home this season, but we'll double check that. For more information on that, you'll want to see the field setup video. Then you pick one of the launch areas to place your robot into. So you spread out your equipment depending on how you're going to take turns launching, right? And you'll spread out your equipment between the two home areas, and you'll put the robot in one launch area. Any remaining time you use to adjust the robot and equipment for the first launch. Calibrate sensors using any part of the mat. Ask the referee to check anything on the field. This part is super important. And a lot of teams miss this. Our referees have a hard job and they work really hard. It is possible for a referee to make a mistake and for the field not to be set up perfectly correctly before the first match starts or before any match starts. The referee sets up the field and then the referee asks the student, is the field good? Or the referee may not ask the student. Before that first launch, the effort is on the student to know, is the field set up correctly? Because if the field is not set up correctly when the match starts, it doesn't matter. However the match was set up, that's how it plays. So if something is set up that becomes impossible to score because it wasn't set up correctly at the beginning of the match, then it's just impossible to score and there's no replay for it. It is very, very important that the students at the table know how the table should be set up, because the onus is on them to say, hey, referee, I think this is set up wrong. Can we take a look at it? And keeping in mind, we want to use our gracious professionalism and our core values when we're asking the referees politely about this, right? So that's why it's important here that the students know, how is the mat supposed to be set up? All right, now this is probably the most complex part of the before the match start. So before the match starts, the team has to divide up into two groups. One group goes to the left, one group goes to the right. If you have between 4 to 10 students, you put 2 students on the left, 2 students on the right, and then whatever else you have left over, you just divide them up however you want. So if you have, 4 students, it'll be 2 left, 2 right. If you have 10 students, it could be, 8 on the left, 2 on the right. It could be 8 on the right, 2 on the left. It could be, 3 more and 3 more. So you have 5 and 5. It does not matter how you split them up as long as you have 2 on the left and 2 on the right. So if you have 4 students, that's the rule. If you have 4 to 10 students, that's the rule. And that's what they're defining right here. Position 2 technicians at each home area. All other team members stand back. Teams may never have more than 2 at the same time. So the reason we divide them up left and right like this, so let's say you've got, 4 and 2 make 6, and then 2 and 2 make 4, so there's 10 students. Any student that starts on the left cannot switch over to the right. Any student that starts on the right cannot switch over to the left. So it's important that they divide up at the beginning of the match. But if you have enough students, you have to have 2 on the left and 2 on the right. So at minimum 4, this is what it looks like. And that's what they're saying here in the 4 or more. Now, if you only have 3 students, 3 is a little bit trickier. So we'll go to 2 actually. So that's 4. For 2 students, you just do 1 on the left, 1 on the right. If you have 4 or more, it's 2 on the left, 2 on the right, and then the others divide up however you see fit. If you have 3 students, the obvious answer is the correct one. You're going to have 1 student on the left, 1 student on the right, and then the other 1 student will either go on the left or the right. You just pick one. So for 3 students, you'll either see a table like this, or you'll see a table like this. Those are the 2 options. If you have just if you just have 2 students, we'll erase some of this. If you have just the 2 students, right, you will have 1 student here, 1 student here. We don't have a use case for 1 student because in First LEGO League Challenge, a team is defined as being at least 2 students. And then finally, if you've got 4 or more students, right, you've got your table, you've got 2 students here, 2 students here, and then 3, 4, 5, 6. You got up to 6 more students divided out however you want. That could be, divided like that. So you have 4 total on the left and 6 total on the right. This is something you're going to want to plan out before you get to the competition. and practice it, because the technicians are allowed to switch out, but the rule is you're only allowed to have 2 technicians at the table at a time. So there'll be 2 up here and 2 up here, but they can swap out at any time during the match as long as you've only got a total of 4 at the table and 2 on each side. So those are the remainder of the before the match rules. Now, the next thing to know is how to set up the field. And there is a video that First LEGO League has for field setup, and so that video will go after this one once it's available.